Potions for Humanity. Welcome. Now we're going to take a moment and do a few centering breaths and ground ourselves into this moment. You can do this with your eyes closed or with your eyes open, whichever you prefer. So in this moment, I invite you to get into your comfortable position, and we're going to take a few cleansing breaths. Breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. Again, breathing in through our nose and out through our mouth. And now we can begin.
Welcome to this season's episodes of
Potions for Humanity,
where we set our sights on cultural equity. This 3-part video series will take you and your pod through a journey to know your stories, name your powers, and unleash those powers in the world around you. One of the big questions we have is, where do I fit into this racial justice work that's afoot right now? Throughout this process, you will gain language and frameworks that will help you understand where you fit in the river of justice. Tell your story, name your powers, share them with your people.
What is a potion?
A potion is a sensory experience that unleashes a power in you and the world around you. It can be a poem, a story, a song, a dance, or a beverage, an essential oil, whatever moves you. There are 3 steps in our potion-making process. Step 1, tell a story of a moment in your life that was significant to your development. Step 2, list the sensory experiences and powers you found in that story, or powers you wish you had. Step 3, create a sensory experience to share your powers with others.
And now, Act 1 from Black Benatar.
I am so fortunate and blessed to be here today with you because I have a message. I don't know if you can tell by my performance, but that performance, the name of that song by the great Patti LaBelle is Change Gonna Come. It was done by it's been covered many, many times, but I believe that. I believe change is coming, change is gonna come, change been coming, and here we are together. And let's be a part of this change. So when I am not on stage, just getting my best life, looking full and glamorous, I am right here in California on the land of the Ohlone people, which is actually where Zoom, this whole platform, is stationed, and Facebook. So we are all coming to you virtually and live from the land of the Ohlone people here in California. For all of those folks who know who their indigenous peoples are, holla, say it out loud, say it out loud. And if you don't know, find out, be curious, get interested. So today, I am here to bring you, it is my 3-point plan to cultural allyship. It is called 12 Years an Ally. Let's talk about it. I posit that if you follow my 3-point plan, in approximately 12 years, you will have made an impact on yourself and those closest to you as we move towards a new world of allyship. The first thing I want to kind of share with y'all is, what are some of these important terms that we keep hearing? People keep bandying them about, things like cultural equity, diversity, inclusion. Let's talk about it. Cultural equity, it's a principle, it's a process, and it is an outcome. So what does that mean? If you want to create equity in our beautiful, beautiful country, then we need to have a process where people can experience equal outcomes, where difference does not inhibit your ability to succeed. Cultural equity, being a principle, a process, and an outcome, It is not fixed. It is something that we must interrogate actively, continually, to ensure that those among us who have the least are able to achieve the highest levels of success. It's something that's going to work for everybody. Now, that process needs inputs. So let's talk about some of those inputs. What might an input be for a culturally equitable system? Any guesses? I think I heard diversity, and you would be correct. But you know how everyone loves to talk about diversity, diversity this, diversity that. Let's talk about what it means, actually, right? Diversity, and you ever heard someone say, ooh, we have a very diverse candidate in our pool of potential new hires. A diverse candidate. It doesn't work. You may not have one single diversity. Diversity is literally all of the differences, all of our unique identities. It's all of us together in relationship with each other that creates diversity. It relies on our unique differences and us being in a collective state. Diversity is an important part of cultural equity, because if you don't have diversity, you don't have anything to put in to the cultural equity process. But you need something else to make it work. And that little something else is called inclusion. All right? Let's talk about inclusion. Again, we love to talk about inclusion, and we just think it means, sort of welcoming everybody. Everyone come on, get in here. Well, welcome is nice. Welcome is wonderful. Welcome is the beginning. People being able to look and see in your space, organization, your home, that they are welcome, bar none, wonderful. But inclusion is the measure of active and intentional welcome, active and intentional engagement, right? You are constantly engaging the diversity of your community in the creation of programs, in the creation of outcomes, rules, processes, practices. You are including the very cultural differences of someone in the ability to make a collective whole, something where we all can find our different entry points to feel a sense of belonging. Because belonging is cultural, right? Okay, all right. So I did a little soft, I got you all caught up. Now we can go, and we can use these words appropriately. And I love it when you're just like, you can call someone in and you're like, that's a diverse candidate, honey, mirror, right? You can call them in, explain it. Now we've armed with some vocab. Let's move on to some things that really, really kind of impact our ability to operate as strong cultural allies. We all hear about privilege. Ooh, it just gets us all testy. But let's talk about privilege. What is privilege? I have an equation for you, because I think we often get confused. Oh, privilege, that means you got this and I don't have that and da-da-da-da-da. But really, when we talk about a system, privilege is also a system, as exhibited here in this equation. Privilege equals societal and economic advantage and preference multiplied by rights. And here's the real stinker. It's with or without your consent. You don't get a choice. Right? And I think that's the part that no one ever really acknowledges, is that some folks, and we all have privilege. Okay, look at all of this privilege. This is called the privilege of fabulosity, people. Okay, and not everyone has it, and it's my job to be sensitive to those who maybe are lacking in the fabulosity. So, right, we want to make room for people. And privilege is one of those things where, oh, I have advantage, I have preference, and I have rights, and I don't even necessarily have to think of them because it's with or without my consent. But if there's privilege, there is a flip side. So what's the flip side of privilege? Did someone say oppression? Yeah, oppression. It is the flip side of privilege. Where there is privilege, there is oppression. Where there is light, there has to be dark, right? We this is how we understand our world. For one outcome, there is an equal and opposite reaction. We've heard that in science all the time. And privilege is that to oppression. So what is oppression? Well, let's map it out. Oppression equals societal and economic disadvantagement plus judgment multiplied by rights. So in the case of advantage, right, you in social and economic advantage, those rights, those become amplified, right? They kind of take you further and faster. In terms of privilege, that disadvantage and judgment, when it's multiplied by rights, it adds. It's about expanding, multiplying that disadvantage and judgment. And guess what? Here we are again, with or without your consent, right? This is why consent's such a big deal, and I think we have to honor that some of our worst qualities as humans are with or without our consent, right? So I love to start there because we have power. Once we understand what our privileges are, we can start to understand them as superpowers. Where there is privilege, there is access and opportunity for change, right? So let's look at it. Privilege versus oppression. Where there is representation, there must be invisibility. Where there is prosperity, we have poverty. Preventative health, emergency health. Opportunity negotiation versus barrier navigation, right? Like, oh, where will I go to school? Where will I go? Which Ivy League shall I go to? I could go to the one where my dad went, or I could go to the one where my mom went. We both get kind of like extra opportunities to get in there versus someone who's like, how will I get to school? How will my school is, I don't have a car. It's miles away. It starts very early in the morning. I have to get my kid to school. Barrier navigation. How do I get around these barriers to get to these different things? It's just like, I think you can start to use your privilege to start to identify where oppression might live. And so these are our tools. These are our lenses that we are developing to become sharper, stronger, and better agents for change. You see what I did there? Okay. So let's look at this. Let's look at this diagram here. So the reason I like this is because it really illustrates this whole with or without your consent. Privilege works by invisibilizing itself to the recipient. So now, here we are. We have this gentleman. Oh, he's looking. He's really regarding this young woman on the other side. Really looking right in her eyes. You know. But in that direct engagement, right in the eyes, what is he missing? What's the matter? It's the same distance. So probably checked out the distance, knew they were in a fair race. Now is locked eyes, and is not looking at the path ahead of her. Is not looking to see, where the barbed wire is, where the pitfalls, where the challenges are in terms of this person getting to that finish line. But they are there, seeing them, right? So we can often, we are present, but we're not paying enough attention. We don't have our lenses honed so that we can actually identify where barriers exist for others, right? This is a key component of cultural allyship. And so it's not about feeling bad, right? This is about becoming aware and being able to use that awareness to affect positive change in your environment. If we can't see, we can't know. If we can't know, we can't do better. So let's talk about cultural allyship. Ooh, I love cultural allyship. It's like this wonderful way where you can have really very limited experience with someone, but you have the desire and the intention to create beloved community. Cultural allyship equals engaged learning, action and behavior, plus action and behavior, multiplied by responsibility. So you are wanting to learn about different people, different places. You're going to want to identify what actions and behaviors that you might need to shift or adopt in order to provide a very clear and understood welcome. And then you're going to take that engaged learning and that action and behavior, and you're going to multiply it by that responsibility to see a more equitable world, right? In order for us to get to this place of cultural equity, we have to have skin in the game. That means that both you and I have to know why cultural equity, why an anti-racist community, why a lack of bias will bring us greater riches and wealth, right? And I'm not talking about financial wealth. I'm talking about the most important wealth, the wealth of a loved, secure, and stable community.
Can you find gratitude in the moment? Gratitude in the shadow? Let's take a moment and just think of a few things that we can appreciate.
Let's take a moment of gratitude for everyone who shares their stories so that we may grow collectively, especially Black, Indigenous, and people of color, so that we may create a world where they can use their gifts as they see fit. Here's your story prompt.
Can you tell a story of a moment in time when you had an ally show up for you?
A few things about storytelling from our story catcher Marquez Rhyme, as taught to them by Baba John O'Neill of SNCC's Free Southern Theater and Junebug Productions. Storytellers should take us into a specific experience, one moment in time. The more embodied the story, leaning on one or more senses, the better. The yellows and browns of the kitchen decor, the smell of dried eucalyptus in the air, the bitter taste of lies pouring from my mouth, the unnerving sound of the house settling. Remember that stories are not statements. Meaning making is a team sport. Let's leave the preaching to the preachers and conclusions to the audiences. Be brave and wise. Tell a story that makes you think twice before sharing. Make sure, though, that the telling of the story is safe for you in this moment in time. If something is very recent to you, it may not be the time to tell that story. Use your best judgment.